Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Lower Makefield Township Disability Advisory Board meeting. I'm the chair, David Mann. With me are my fellow members, David Rogers, Lisa, and Trish. Also, we have with us John Lewis, our supervisor liaison. So I want to say welcome to everyone, and let's move into our agenda. So the first thing I would like to do is see if there is an approval of last meeting's minutes.
Moved.
Do we have a second? David or Lisa, do you have a second? If you're muted, you want to unmute.
Second.
Okay. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I think the ayes have it. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is a discussion about the Parks and Recreation accreditation, and Monica's going to lead that discussion, and then we're going to hop into a group discussion on the effects of the pandemic on people with disabilities, both overall and within the Lower Makefield Township community.
Hi, everybody. Oh, are you ready for me, David? I'm sorry.
Sure, go ahead, Monica.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to come here today to talk a little bit about what we're doing in Parks and Recreation and how maybe we can partner together as we move through our accreditation process. Just a little bit about CAPRA, which is the Commission for Accreditation of Parks and Recreation Agencies. It's a national certification. No one in the state currently has the accreditation. It is a very good accreditation. It is something that will help bring us to the next level as a township, our parks to the next level. It will also help us make decisions in a more efficient way. The reason I'm reaching out to you today is there's a piece in the planning section about creating an ADA transition plan for our township. And I know we've done this a little bit for Makefield Park, but it'd be a more comprehensive plan where we identify barriers that exist within our recreation facilities, our parks and amenities, and we address them in a very phased, planned way, create a schedule for these type of things. So I'd like to see, kind of just first give you an initial introduction to this concept and maybe discuss how we can address this in the future or how you'd like to be involved.
Okay, so just so I kind of have a better understanding, so it would be basically creating a plan that we're kind of looking at the various facilities in the township, recreational facilities, and then kind of doing a plan to address any accessibility needs at them.
Yes, that's it. Parks and Recreation overall is looking to create an overall master plan just specific to Parks and Recreation. This would be a piece of that long-term planning. So we want to make sure that those barriers are removed, that the parks are fully accessible, and that we address them in a organized way.
Okay. Open up the discussion to the broader board. Are there any questions about this?
Well, I'm just wondering if they have already identified any particular barriers that, have you started like a master list at all?
I think we're right at the very beginning. Makefield Park does have some identified barriers. We have here and there information, which I'm going to start pulling together. I think it'd be great to have you involved to help identify these type of things, because who would know better what type of barriers there are out there in our parks. Some of our parks have been around for some time. I know there may be some issues at our pool, some issues at, Memorial Park's a fairly new park, but maybe some of the ball fields or, anything like that. So I'd like to take a nice comprehensive look. And as we budget, we can plan for these type of things. It also makes us a little bit more eligible for any type of grant to approach these type of things. So, having a plan like this in place and ready to go. So if a grant becomes available, we would be ready to apply for it. if it works out. So it's just something to consider for the future.
So Monica, is it more than just, the obvious things are accessibility as far as handicap parking, accessible bathrooms, but does it go a next layer of having programs for the disabled, or is it mostly just physical barriers?
We could take it as far as we want to as a township, really. I mean, we have to have a plan in place. Facilities is the primary focus as far as the CRAPRA accreditation. But if we want to go next level, if we want to go to that next level where we're talking about programming and offerings that we have, or how we can include better in some of our programs, I'd be glad and open to that too.
Because I feel like we do have a start, like YMS has the YMS Special Stars. Mm-hmm. So could that fit into your, into part of the plan is what I'm asking. So we do have some already out there, but could they be part of that Parks and Rec plan?
Sure. Any way we partner with the community can be included in the plan. So if there are things that we offer now, we can mention that in the plan. These are the things that we have. This is where we'd like to go. I know that I've had a lot of requests about summer camps, specific summer camps, more accessibility in our summer camps, even some of our other programs. So, however we can be more inclusive, I think that would be to the benefit of the township. That's just my opinion. I don't know if you'll agree, but that's my opinion.
Yeah. Personally, I think that this is a really good opportunity for the Disability Advisory Board. If we're not around to do activities like this, what are we around to do activities for? I think at least in my mind, I think a good first step would be meeting with you again, Monica, and getting a list, or at least you could provide a list to us of the facilities in the township that would be that you would want us to review and inspect. And I think then we can kind of develop a plan as a board and start looking at those different properties, coming up with suggestions and compiling them together. At least that's my thinking. I don't want to formally commit to anything before I want to hear. It's a little bit harder not seeing everyone in the room, so I want to see what the rest of the members' reactions are to that idea.
Well, we've over time identified a number of barriers and addressed them little by little, but I think this gives us an opportunity to have a more comprehensive look at the whole thing, get them all down, get them in writing, and then we can actually start working through them. I mean, it goes beyond, obviously, like Lisa said, handicap parking is an issue. We've identified some things with 5 Mile Woods for the possibility for people to with physical disabilities to utilize that. So I think we as a committee could take a look and work our way through a starter list anyway.
Yeah, no, Dave, I think I think the one other thing, in addition to trying to be comprehensive, is it seems like the township is really, there's some buy-in here, right? To want to make a plan and carry it out. It's one thing when we suggest something, but when the township is wants to build a plan, I think that there's a great opportunity for us to partner with them in that activity.
So I think what I can do to start is compile a list of facilities. I can compile a list of sample plans that other townships have done across the country, and I can share them with you, and then we can kind of decide which way we'd like to go from here. And I'd be glad to come back again, and we can start, in the end, all of this will go before the Board of Supervisors and the Park Board. So we'll all have to work together to make it work. But I think what a great way that we can work together.
So also, as far as what's the current status of the facilities, are they all open? I mean, I know the pool is going to be closed for the season,
Yes.
It would be nice for us to be able to get access to that at some point to be able to look at it. But also the rest of the facilities, is anything closed right now, or are we mostly open?
The community center is closed. There are some facilities out in the parks that are closed right now. So we're phasing open. We do have a full phase schedule on, not to get into the nitty gritty, but we do have a full phase schedule for reopening on our COVID site that you have access to. But if you have any questions about that, I'd be glad to help you with that too.
I guess the news on the pool changed, because I'd originally heard it was going to be shut down all season, but then did they change that?
No, it'll be closed all season.
Oh, it will be closed all season. Okay. Yeah, but it will. But if possible, it might be nice for us to be able to have access to it. Like go with someone in the Parks and Rec department and just take a look at it. Even though it's closed this season, I don't know if that's even a possibility, but
Some
David,
of
to
us
me-
have never been to the pool, so it's a good opportunity to, take a look and with a fresh set of eyes. The
Right.
other question I had was, what is your timeline on this?
We have 2 years to submit our full assessment. So we started this in December. So we have a little bit of time to get things done. We are compiling, we're working on a couple other things right now too. We have a risk management interns that are working on our risk management piece. I'm hoping in the next year we could start going towards some of our other planning. But we're working on a trail plan. So there are some things that we're working on now too at the same time. Probably the EAC will be my next outreach to see how we can partner with them for a little bit of a plan for recycling in our parks or being more efficient. So we're picking this off little by little, but we do have 2 years to complete. We can always extend if we have to, but we will be the first in Pennsylvania to have the accreditation, first in our area to have the accreditation, which I think would be a really, a great thing for the township overall.
I'm assuming that there is no budget right now. That's something that we would have to anticipate later on. Is that right?
Well, essentially, we will come up with the plans, and then as we can include them into the budget, we will try to work to include them into the budget. So we'd have to work that in.
like I'm speculating, but I would imagine, for example, I know that there are plans to renovate the pool in the next couple of years or something. It would be nice to be able to get feedback on making the pool area more accessible, so that when they spend that money to do all those other renovations, then maybe this could be on the list too.
Well, as part of the feasibility study for the pool, accessibility and becoming compliant is one of the things on the list. So, I'd be glad to include you more with the feasibility piece of it. But as part of the future plan, everything is going to be made more accessible. So
Yeah.
Now, as part of this project, if you do want to take a look around the pool and there are concerns that you have, I'd be glad to go in and tour with you.
Well, what's the timeline? I mean, on the pool, the major renovations.
Major renovations haven't even, the final plans haven't even gone anywhere. The feasibility hasn't gone anywhere
Just
right
a
now.
few
We're
years
still,
away.
yeah, I mean, we have a few years until we really launch those things.
Yeah.
Now, accessibility is a piece of, we want to everything will be up to date and compliant as part of the renovations. That will be something that we address. That's something we looked at in the bathrooms. Even getting around from pool to pool to pool and making things a little bit easier. So I'd be glad to loop you in with, what we've done already with what we're looking at potential.
Yeah, I think it sounds like it's a good idea to both tour the pool facility, so we could get a sense of what is currently there and if there are any short-term changes that can be made. But I think having us as consulting us as you're going through the major renovation plans, I think is a good idea. We're supposed to review all building plans in the township anyway, so I'd definitely consider this as something on the list that we would want to review, the major
Of
plan.
course, yeah, of course, we want to kind of include everybody as we move forward. Now, moving into the next phase would be kind of taking back. We did have a public forum that we took feedback from the public at large. We put the video live. We had a number of attendees that came and gave feedback on the plan. The next would be to give a presentation to the board, and maybe that's a joint presentation, maybe that's something that we do. But, that would be the next phase before it goes to the Board of Supervisors.
Okay.
So that's kind of how that works.
Monica, are we doing an annual facilities tour this year?
We are looking to do a drive your own car to a couple key facilities tour.
Okay.
It's not going to be the standard.
Because I was going to say that could be an ideal time to look at accessibility issues with the Parks and Rec folks as well, if we're all driving our own cars.
And that's not a bad idea. Maybe we could do at least a couple facilities, get a couple facilities under our belt. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fine by me. And I agree that, I think talking about touring facilities by car, whatever we do, we need to do it in a way that maintains kind of social distancing and best practices to prevent the spread of the pandemic, because I know our members will want to follow those restrictions and guidelines.
Yes, we all will too. I mean, we're planning to follow the social distancing and masking guidelines.
Okay.
So, I think my next step would be to send you that information. If you could come to the tour, visit a certain site, I'd be glad even on the side to take you around and tour facilities with you. I could definitely help you with that. And I really look forward to being able to work better with you in the future.
Sounds good.
So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any final?
Thank you, Monica.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you.
Okay. Seems like we have no final questions. Okay, thanks. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is a discussion about the effects of the pandemic on people with disabilities. And I kind of saw this as on the agenda as just kind of a time we haven't spoken since this all started. So I wanted to hear what you guys are hearing. If you know of any if you have a personal experience about, how people with disabilities are being affected by the pandemic, I have plenty. This would be a good time to share them. One thing that for us, I'm considered a member of a high risk group, so we've been social isolating. We haven't been going around out anywhere. We get all of our food, groceries, and other things through delivery, and have to be very careful even about processing that. I think one thing that's been a big deal is I also have a personal home health aide, and we really can't have him come right now because he works another job and he doesn't social isolate, and I can't ask him to put put the things that he wants to do on hold necessarily just to be able to work at this job. So that's been difficult. He's been able to help out a lot less. And my wife's been stepping up and providing a lot of assistance, but it's been difficult. And she's also been my son's teacher/tutor during these times as he's been receiving instruction from home. But I'm sure we all have stories, but if anyone else would want to share.
Well, mostly what I've noticed is that for me personally, I'm pretty rigid about self-isolating. I'm very careful where I go. I wear the mask, the gloves. I'm in a high-risk group. I decided I was so stir crazy. I went over to the Newtown Farmers Market last Friday. Most of the people working there had their masks on their chins, no gloves. I was really surprised that people are out and back to business. It seems to me, my personal observation is like there's no pandemic going on. In the very early days when I would just take a ride to get out of the house, there was no traffic. And now on the surface anyway, it appears to me that things are kind of back to normal. And now we have another spike going on. That's just my own observation. I'm curious to see, hear, what the rest of you think.
The failure of people to use masks, I think the message was put across improperly. The mask is not to protect you, it's to protect the other person. And the general atmosphere that I'm seeing is that it's all about me, and we also have a very short memory as a nation. And I think you're absolutely right. The peak is over, so this whole thing is done. I saw that California just today is mandating masks for everyone. Period. End of conversation. And yet you've got other states where they're saying it's up to you, do what you want to do. And so it's locally, just a guess is probably 70% of the people are wearing a mask when you go into a grocery store. And, I happen to use ShopRite most of the time, and they definitely are controlling the number of people in the store at a time. They've got somebody there holding you back, et cetera, et cetera. And then people generally are cognizant, but it's not it's not to the level that it was even 2 months ago.
And also, I'm trying to word this very carefully, but I think it's been politicized to a certain amount, and depending upon which side of the fence you're on, either take it seriously or maybe not so seriously. Wow.
So I have some personal experiences just with several things going on during this pandemic. First, I want to commend the township for providing an emergency call number for them calling seniors that might live alone and need some assistance as far as medications, just providing a weekly check, daily check, whatever they needed. So I was very impressed by that. I hope it worked out. I don't know how well, it did work out. I don't know, John, if you have any input on that, but I think that was something that was necessary, and I'm very happy that they put that in place for our seniors and our people with anyone that needed assistance during this time. So thank you to everybody involved in that. As far as other personal experiences, this pandemic for the disabled has been difficult. Like Dave was saying, my nephew is bedridden. He has 24-hour care. Anyone that worked outside in another facility, they couldn't work on his case. When they come in, they have to take off their clothes and put on scrubs, and that at the end they have to take them off. He can't have his physical therapy come in because it's just another layer of someone possibly exposing. If he doesn't have his physical therapy, now he's in pain. So it really is taking a toll, and I don't think a lot of people realize, the isolation, not only mentally, but it's physically too, that's impacting. So, just keep that in mind, reaching out to someone via FaceTime, whatever, would really be helpful, just because they are probably having limited exposure to everyone. But my heart does go out to everyone that's lost someone, weren't able to properly, if you lost a loved one, couldn't properly bury them. And now my 105-year-old great aunt has COVID. She was in a nursing home. So if everybody's wondering how it's happening, she's isolated because she's bedridden. She has no contact with anyone other than staff members. And, I don't know what to say other than maybe not enough PPE, where they're not changing when they go from patient to patient. But here you have someone that has no contact with anyone, and, she does have it. I don't know. I'm hoping she survives it. We don't know. She survived the 1918 flu, Spanish flu. So she has a chance on this one. So, but anyway, I do want to express, how thankful I am for the township for assisting with the phone calls, and just keep everyone, try to reach out to anyone that that might be isolated.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Your aunt will be in our prayers, and I think that it's another example of how efficient this virus is at spreading, right? Even when you're taking precautions. I think that what we're seeing in some parts of the country as they've opened that up, and now we're seeing 6 weeks later, they're seeing spikes. It speaks to how efficiently this virus spreads, right? I think that we're very fortunate that the rates right now in our area seem to be low, much lower than they were based on the rates of hospitalization, but that doesn't mean that we can't be vigilant, because I think that my opinion is that you could see a resurgence in this area in several weeks if we were to take lax measures like other areas are doing currently. That's my concern. And all of that is putting aside what's going to happen when people tend to go back indoors in the fall, where spread is even, where the virus spreads even more quickly and more efficiently. So it's, I just feel that we're very much still in the middle of this. As much as we would like to think that it's all over. And Trish, as you were saying, that you go around the parts of the township and it looks like everything's back to normal. It really isn't.
With the exception of restaurants, pretty much every store is open now. I took a drive down Route 1. Everything along there was open. I don't know about the mall. Oh, I think JCPenney's open at the mall, but yeah, kind of surprising at the least.
Yeah.
It's hard to think that on May 1st, we had 25 people in Lower Makefield who had passed from COVID, and now it's 6 weeks later and the total's up to 61. So that's almost 2 out of every 1,000 people in Lower Makefield have died now. A lot of that are folks that are in the nursing homes within Lower Makefield, but that's still almost 2 out of every 1,000 people, or 1 out of every 500 Lower Makefield residents, which is far too high. And yeah, things are improving modestly now. We're starting to get a little better, but it is sobering, when you think about such a small community, so many people.
Right. And doesn't our township have about 30,000 people?
32,005 something. So 32,500. Roughly 11,000 households.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you assumed a mortality, if everyone got infected and you assumed a mortality rate of 1%, right, you'd be talking about 320 people. Mm-hmm. And even if it was 0.5%, you're still talking about 160 people. So there's a lot of lives still to be protected, right, by making sure that transmission is minimized in our township.
Yeah, and I think the wellness checks that the police instituted were huge in terms of making sure that we track people who are at risk, because we want to encourage people to try and stay at home when they can. And I'm wondering if there's, in preparation, if there's going to be another more significant stay-at-home order in the future, if we could take this time to gather the list of people who might need that service, so that we're ready the next time it occurs, in terms of being able to reach out to folks and know who needs help pretty quickly. And I think that's something the township should be working on.
Well, John, I think the police, Chief Caluzzi, we've worked on a list that they have.
So they have a list.
They have a list of people in the township that we did a letter, and they always follow up on that. But I think this, the new phone number, as far as what was put out on the website, just specifically for the COVID, was much more comprehensive, just because people just couldn't get out, for people that normally could get out couldn't get out. So I'm sure, I would hope that they're going to keep that list, from the current pandemic, and the old list that we had, people that just needed, maybe somebody's in a wheelchair in a particular room, and, first responders could respond to that particular room in the house. So.
Well, if there's that, John, if anything comes up that you think that this group could help with in the weeks ahead, please let us know. I agree with you that, I think now is the time, right, to do any kind of planning that we need to do for a possible second wave in the fall, right? When rates are lower and we have a few weeks to think about this. But again, on our end, if there's any, and I think we'll continue to think about it, and I think if anything comes up, we can bring it to your attention or shoot you a line off the email. Any other comments, questions from members before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, hearing none. We have 3 updates. First is roll and stroll. We were planning to do a roll and stroll this year. It's always good to do one in an election year, as we found out. But I have great concerns about conducting such an event and being able to maintain social distancing and other things like that. And if the township is even allowing activities like township-sponsored activities like that to occur. So I'll just open it up to discussion. I know that Lisa, that you were working on vendors at
at this point, I did discuss this with Monica about a month ago. It was clear that we should cancel. Now that things have eased up, it's encouraging, but I think our prior discussion leads us to say, you know what, maybe, there could possibly be a second wave. We don't want to do all this planning, invite vendors and invite people in the community that may be compromised to participate in an event. So at this point, I think we should cancel. If anyone else has any questions, we can move it to, cancel it and move it to the following year, potentially in the spring, but maybe just for 1 year to coincide with Bike the Park again. But I think it's safest to cancel. The vendors, I'm sure, a lot of our vendors are probably not going to be able to hold, we had the Pegasus horse. I don't know if they're back to doing that. I don't know. I can't remember the other, we just don't want to encourage a lot of kids coming that might be compromised. So that would be my intention, to cancel.
I think you're absolutely right, particularly given the audience that we have and the participants. It just doesn't make sense. It's just too risky. And postponing it for a year, we had to cancel the Run the Gates event this year. That would have been on the 7th of June. Middletown Township said no, because they were restricting the number of people that could participate to 25. I don't know what the new rules are going to be in terms of group sizes that can get together, but just because they say you can doesn't mean we should. So I agree with Lisa completely.
I agree. Also, I think it's just far too risky to take a chance and have that. So I'm in total agreement with that.
I agree. Do we need to make a motion to cancel that, or?
I would.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to cancel the Roll and Stroll for September. I think we were going to do it September 28th, or and move it into 2020, and we can discuss a date. 2021, discuss a date at that point.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I think the ayes have it.
I'll reach out to all the vendors that had committed already and just let them know.
Thank you, Lisa. Sorry for all that work is for naught, but I think we're making the right decision here. Okay, next is Community Day. I would imagine that's a similar story.
I did reach out to Monica, and they're going to be making a decision in the beginning of July, whether or not they're going to hold Community Day. I believe it was going to be held the weekend before Memorial Day, but they're going to make a decision in July, the first week in July.
Okay, I mean, we can table that, but I can tell you that I have serious reservations about manning a table, even if they did have it.
And a lot of times we were there to promote the roll and stroll or events. And since we're not having any, I don't think it's necessary for us to attend other than to look for a new member for our openings.
Well, it sounds like maybe we should officially table this, but we can bring this up at the next meeting, and by then they will have made a decision. And then if we need to if they decide to have it, we can make a decision about whether or not we want to have a table. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes.
Certainly does.
Okay, I don't think we need a motion there.
No.
Next, building plans. Dave, have you received any new building plans?
Nothing at all. It's been very quiet. Obviously, I'm not sure whether the township had been issuing any new plans had they been there. John, you might be able to shed some light on that.
So the only thing that I think that I can recall is it's actually not like a formal public building. It is a water substation that Pennsylvania American Water is building. So that's the only one that went through sort of a revised process, and it's basically a pump station, and that's off the Quarry Road. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's active. You know, we're going through all the stuff on Caddis, and we still have a tick list of all the development that that's already been reviewed and approved, but nothing new right now. And there is, because I know many folks have asked about potential developments on Township Line Road and 332, or the sort of Prickett's Preserve combination. That overlay is still under review by the Board of Supervisors. If that were to pass, the property owners would still have to go through the land development process. So final plans and stuff, you wouldn't see those for months. Anyway, so.
John, do you know if what's going on the building on 332? They're doing a lot of construction. Are they adding to the buildings? I don't know if that would be the South Campus across from 777. Is that a building, or are they just doing grading and water?
So Planning Commission reviewed last summer, I think, updates to 777 Lower Makefield Corporate Center, and then the one that's right on the corner with the Dunkin' Donuts. There'll be improvements in the parking lot to make it a little more greener, and then interior improvements as well to upgrade the fixtures. Pardon me, I was up real late last night. Upgrade the fixtures inside the building, and the design goal for both of them is to move up in terms of to get to sort of Class A commercial real estate, to get move up in rent on those. So those were reviewed by the Planning Commission last year and approved. But there is a lot of stuff that is walkways and other stuff in there.
Dave, is that something that we would have to review, or if they're upgrading walkways, or we just, usually Jim Majewski's pretty good about giving us any of the design plans, so.
Yeah, that's something that we usually like to look at, but most of that kind of stuff is, generally speaking, up to code, because it's there are a lot of written code on that kind of thing. I would like to, and I'll reach out to Jim just to see if there is anything there to look at. But we've had some situations, I forget, several years back, where a conversation between myself and the landowner resulted in not putting in curbing, but rather having a flat path to make it easier for somebody with wheelchairs from the handicap accessible parking. We look at things like that, but not without having seen the actual layout changes to the parking area. I can't address it, but I'll reach out to Jim on that.
One of the things that you can do is, if you go to the LMT website and you go to the Planning Commission website, Jim has added all the current plans under review, including informal sketch plans and details around them. And in fact, I can pull up the link. I don't know if I can. There's no chat function in here, unfortunately. But if you go to the Planning Commission section of the LMT website, it'll have all the preliminary site plans and stuff. And you can, for example, see the Pennsylvania American Water Quarry booster pump station site plans if you want. But all that stuff, all the sketch plans are there. And then a status sheet of what's being considered. So you'll know before, once, if they're going through anything, where it's at and what the status is.
Okay, I'll look at that and then reach out to Jim with any questions that might have.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. So the only other item I had on the agenda was LMT pool accessibility, and that we put that on. I think, Trish, that was a recommendation of yours from a while back because of the plans to renovate the pool, and I think that covered that with Monica. So are there any other issues, topics, things people want to bring up?
I have an update just on 2 items. The community center doors, I just wanted to make a note that that is on hold for right now. They were supposed to be completed. I think we had mentioned this in probably the late 2019, but right now they are on hold. Okay. I think it is due to COVID and, no one's in there, but I don't know if it's the manufacturer or whatever, but so they won't be done in the next few months anyway. The other was, I know we had just discussed the trees up by the playground, and Monica did say that they were for the inclusive playground. There's no shade there. It's very hot, and for the kids playing, the sun is just beating down during the day. So she is working with someone, getting some ideas for some shade, provide shade there. It may not be with trees. It could be those triangular, whatever, the umbrella looking type things. And so she's going to be working, she'll give an update on that later on, probably after the summer. She'll let us know on that. And that was all.
Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Mm-hmm. So I think the final thing that I should bring up is next meeting. Would you guys like to meet in July? I know that we had talked about having 2 months on, 2 months off, but we missed our May meeting because of the pandemic. So I think a July meeting is a possibility if you guys are amenable to it. I think it would also, we'd probably be able to make that decision about the community day at that meeting. So are there any?
Fine with me.
Fine with me.
Okay, we'd look for a probably something is the week of July 20th. a good week to potentially target?
That works for me.
Okay,
That works for me.
Works for me.
okay. And I will get the time of day right this time, next time. I apologize. Okay, so if we have no business, other business, I think we can make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay.
I'll
all in
second
fa-
that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, well,
All right.
I think.
All right. Nice seeing everyone.
Yep,
Good seeing
thank you.
everyone.
Take care, everybody.